To order and ask that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Before we continue with the agenda, once again, unfortunately, our country has experienced a very traumatic shooting at a school down in Santa Fe, Texas. I think I said this last time when it was Parkland, which obviously this is occurring, unfortunately, much too often. I certainly don't have the answers. I think every school district and every community in the country is now struggling with what can we do to try to prevent these. I can vividly recall one of the students being interviewed, and I think the reporter asked, "Were you surprised?" And this young woman said, "I really wasn't. I was waiting for it to occur at my school." Certainly on behalf of the entire school committee and the school district, I would like to offer our thoughts and prayers to the victims, their families, and all the students and staff in the Santa Fe School District. And I would ask if you would please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Continuing with the agenda, the first item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve our meeting minutes from April 24th, 2018.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve our May 8th, 2018 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mrs. Gogan.
Good evening, everyone. I have some great news to share with you. I sound very loud. I kind of like this.
It's a power thing.
If I could only sing. I have great news to share with you. This is way too loud. I have great news to share with you. The Community Adult Learning Education Grant has come through, and we were informed that we will be receiving $426,000, which is an increase of about $151,000 from last year. I would like to congratulate Leslie Baker and Terry Gilardi for writing this grant and their hard work. I asked Leslie to speak a little bit about the new funds and how they would be used to give us a quick update.
If you could just push the button. Thank you. Perfect.
Good evening. As Superintendent Gogan said, we did receive an increase of about $151,000. This is really extraordinary. It doesn't sound like a large sum of money, but this is going to enable us to open the Mirror site in Southbridge, in addition to our program here in Webster. So between the two locations, we have about 150 seats for students, adult learners 16 and above. The only thing that we did not receive, which we proposed, is, as you recall, we had a very aggressive proposal and included 2 integrated education and training components. We were told at the beginning when the RFP was offered that there would only be 1 awarded per region. But we decided to try for the 2, and we did receive the 1 that was awarded. So tomorrow, myself and our assistant director will be spending the day in Devens with all of the other programs that were awarded, working with Department of Ed and learning some of the logistics and nitty-gritty details of how the cycle is going to progress moving forward for the next 4 years. At that, we'll have an opportunity to speak with our program specialist, and we'll try to iron out these last few details of what we will be presenting for the coming year. because we need to hit the ground running with hiring staff and marketing. So we're very excited. Unfortunately, we did speak to a number of colleagues who received a decrease in funding and some that weren't funded at all. So this is a big change in the adult education world. But we're thrilled to say we're here.
Well, congratulations. For those newer members and also for the folks that might be watching, because I think you gave that presentation when we were over at Park Ave. Can you just quickly go through, obviously, what the goal and the benefits of adding this location in Southbridge, and really, because you presented in quite a bit of detail
Thank you.
the thinking that went behind it
Right.
and the tremendous benefit that's going to be for the entire Southern Worcester County region.
Right. We are the only DESI-funded program in South County, and although we've been in place here in Webster for 19 years, this is currently our 20th, many people from Southbridge have had great difficulty sustaining in our program, and transportation is a huge barrier. It can take anyone up to 2 hours on a bus to come one way between Webster and Southbridge, and transportation on buses is not available in the evening. So that's been a big challenge for folks. Plus, our students aren't able to easily access the Workforce Central location in Southbridge either. We've partnered with them. We've partnered with Mass Rehab, who works with people that have challenges. Many adult learners, up to 60%, have undiagnosed learning disabilities, and that learning disability qualifies them for Mass Rehab services to assist them in attaining employment. So we've brought a lot of partners to the table in South County. In between the two locations, we will be able to offer classes Monday through Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday here in Webster like we've traditionally done, and Monday and Wednesday in Southbridge. In addition, we've made a radical switch in offering blended learning, which is something that isn't done currently in the adult basic education world. So our students that are now going to be working towards employment, post-secondary education, or occupational training are also going to have to do an additional 3 hours of online learning outside of class time, instructional time. And our hopes are that it will accelerate their achievement in their classes and get them to their goals much more quickly than they are currently.
Great. Any questions or comments from the committee? Again, just to reiterate, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I just have
Yeah.
one quick question. Can you speak a little bit about the medical assistant program and the machine shop program, the additions?
Those are the IETs, and we're going to have to choose one of them. We are working with our program specialist at ACLS and also with the workforce people in the region to determine what is the better fit. At this point, we're feeling like it might be the medical assisting because there are so many medical facilities in South County. We proposed a medical assistant program so that the people who participate can not only receive their certificate as a medical assistant, but they will also get phlebotomy and EKG certification in this program. That makes them a very flexible and valuable potential employee that can work in a number of different settings. So we're feeling at the moment like that might be the better fit. Ultimately, we want to work with Workforce Central and convene a South County Regional Employment Board, similar to the one that's in Worcester that serves the whole region. And we'd like to work with employers through that board and hopefully find enough funds between the smaller companies in the South County area that we would be able to offer the advanced manufacturing certification as well. But that would be privately funded and not through DESI funds. So we need to get our grant up and running, and then we'll start tackling the.
Thank you for that
Advanced
clarification. I
manufacturing.
thought they were both eligible to start, but thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
And just quickly, again, congratulations on behalf of the entire committee. I know these grants are highly competitive, and I know you and your team, just based on the amount of paperwork that we saw, which probably wasn't even a third of what you had to put together, a lot of work went into it. So this is very exciting, and congratulations.
Thank you. We were very excited. We were actually the top-rated application in Central Mass.
Well, we wouldn't
We're
expect
excited.
anything less.
Thank you. But it was definitely a team effort as well.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Good job, Leslie.
Thank you.
The other things that I would like to fill you in on is I had the opportunity to attend the 5th Global STEM Educational Summit at Harvard Graduate School last week and made some very interesting connections that I'm hoping will benefit our district. The summit really was focused on global education and what we are doing and not doing in schools to prepare our kids for the workforce. Some of the contacts that I made have been fruitful. We are looking at a pilot curriculum right now for our STEM classes on with a program called Empower Studios. And so we haven't committed yet, but we're looking at how to bring that curriculum into the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. We had an initial meeting with the owner of the company, and he was quite impressed that we already have some of the 3D printers and some of the computers to use for this program. And we're looking at what our cost would be to run this pilot. And we're probably looking at just the middle school for next year. I gave you more detailed information in my notes, but I left that symposium really knowing that we are not alone in schools and that the whole model of public education is really in question in today's world. Are we preparing our kids for the 21st century? And the whole model of how we all went to school and sat in a classroom in front of a teacher and was taught curriculum has changed. And so we talked about this at the last school committee meeting. We are looking for some new ways, just like Leslie is with the adult education program, on how to bring some more hands-on learning into our schools to give kids those opportunities. So I wanted to share that with you. I also wanted to let you know that I had the pleasure of attending the Hubbard Health annual meeting, and at that meeting, the Hubbard Health System had made a very, very, very special donation through a grant that they had, the Mary Bixby grant. That grant has been sitting, I think, stagnant for years. It was a grant dedicated to help handicapped children. And Florence Cusdale from the Hubbard Health System took it upon herself to reach out to local schools to see if there were students in need of support, whatever that support would be. And at this meeting, this annual meeting, she shared with us that some schools turned her down and said, we don't have any children that might need anything. But thanks to Mrs. Sarah Phillips, who wrote an outstanding letter on behalf of C.J. Gibbons, who was a student at Park Ave Elementary School, he was given a custom-made bicycle. He gets around at the school on a tricycle right now, which he has quickly outgrown. And due to this grant, Mrs. Cusdale and Mrs. Phillips and a bike company put together a custom-made bicycle that will last him for years. And there was another student from another district also celebrated at this annual meeting. And I'm bringing it to your attention because, we talk a lot about culture and actions, and, we initiated the random acts of kindness after the last shooting. We made band bracelets that say in Webster, kindness matters. Well, I attended that night, and I will tell you, in Webster, kindness certainly matters. There were over 100 people in attendance. Everyone paid due diligence and attention to the children that were there and the needs in our community. At that annual ceremony, our EMTs in town were recognized. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Gary was recognized, and we got to hear stories about how people are just going out of their way to help each other. And, those stories don't make it onto Facebook. Those stories are not what people are talking about at the bubbler or the water fountain. And I'm here to stress that people just need to open their eyes and look around. We are surrounded in a community of people who are caring and giving, And it was quite a touching evening, and I was very pleased to be a part of that celebration. And I publicly want to thank Sarah Phillips for her outstanding letter of to this for this grant. And so I wanted to tell you about that. And I'm sorry I blanked out on his name. It's been a long day. We've had a principal candidate finalist who has spent the day at the high school. His name is Mr. Peter Cushing. He today spent the afternoon meeting students and teachers and parents and school committee members and community members. And we are closing in on trying to pick the next leader for the Bartlett High School. I'm pleased with Mr. Cushing's candidacy, and I will be keeping you informed as to the next steps. And I think that concludes my report.
Any questions or comments from the committee for Mrs. Gogan? I just want to follow up. You know, a lot of people don't realize that the Webster EMS actually falls under the Hubbard Health System umbrella. And obviously, you know, I know you've had a chance to work with Chief Milliard and his staff, not only from a planning standpoint and safety, but also, unfortunately, at times we do have emergency needs in our buildings. And I've had the privilege of working with him, as you have, on the opiate task force. And he and his team do an amazing job in this community. And people have no idea the level of service that they provide, the number of visits they provide a year, and how much that ambulance service gives away in free care, as well as, you know, they supply the Narcan for all the police cruisers in town. So
Schools?
I did see that he was recognized, and I was glad he was, because he works tirelessly for this community.
I certainly didn't do justice to the stories that I heard, and the number of lives that have been saved. There are so many caring people in this community, and that was just a celebration of that.
Right.
And to see our students benefiting from that, the pay it forward mentality is here.
Well, thank you very much for your update.
Thank you.
Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the principal report from the Webster Middle School, but I understand we have a special guest with us. Good evening, Mr. K. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, and thanks for having me as a last-minute pinch hitter here for Mr. Zajac, but I'm happy to be here. I have a few things on the agenda here to report. First is, on May 15th, our Webster Middle School students attended a show choir presentation held here at Bartlett High School. The performance was showcased the many fine talents of both the Webster Middle School and the Bartlett High School show choirs, and it was done under the direction of Mr. Peter Carney. Secondly on the list is our first ever, Wednesday, June 6th, 7:00 p.m., we will have an induction of 19 students to the National Junior Honor Society. These 19 students were required to complete a very detailed packet of information that was then reviewed by a committee of our 8th grade teachers. And with that said, I just want to say a very special thank you to our Bartlett High School National Honor Society students and officers who will be attending that evening and helping out in that ceremony, and also along to our National Junior Honor Society advisor, Lori Foley. So should be a great evening. We're really looking forward to that. In all my years here, it is the first ever, so it is pretty neat. Number 3 on our field day. We have a field day coming up on Wednesday, June 20th, and give you a little background on the field day. It's an event that will be held in 2 sessions. The first session in the morning, we'll have our 5th and 6th graders who will be participating in the events that are designed by our Unified Arts staff. Our Unified Arts staff will actually assist, but our PE and health staff designs a series of different obstacles, and a lot of fun will certainly be had by all. Our 7th and 8th grade will head out there in the afternoon for their part in that. Students in the past have certainly enjoyed themselves. A bagged lunch is supplied to them. There's water involved, so there's a lot of water sports or water activities, but it's pretty neat event that takes place on the backside of our school. So swing through, come on by, maybe you can help us out a little bit.
Come get wet.
Yeah, and get wet. As some of you know, the last couple of years, we've had an 8th grade celebration that we've held. It's been held locally at Indian Ranch. However, I do believe that they're booked pretty solid right now, so we've had to change locations, and we will be attending or holding this event now at Breezy Point Grounds in Douglas. And I believe the celebration will take place from 8 a.m. until approximately 1:30 p.m. We'll get them back to the school in time to go home on the buses. And again, it's a little unfortunate, but because we've had so much fun at Indian Ranch, hopefully we'll get back there again next year. Last on my list is an announcement of some dates that are coming up as we close out school. The week of June 4th through June 8th, we will be hosting Spirit Week. On June 20th, I believe that's a Wednesday, Step Up Day will be held for grades 5, 6, and 7 in our building. On that same day, Mr. Zajac and maybe me, we will visit Park Ave Elementary to introduce ourselves to the students there in grade 4 as we get ready to welcome them to Webster Middle School. And grade 4's actual step-up day will take place the following day, and that will be on Thursday, June 21st, from 9 o'clock to 10:30 in the morning. And last but not least, on June 22nd, our final day, we will hold our 8th grade awards ceremony in that morning. So hopefully we'll see a few of you around for some of these fun-filled events. But otherwise, that is the end of my report at this time. I thank you.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Kay? Yes, Mrs. Blythe.
Mr. K, oh, sorry. The 8th grade celebration day, because it's at Breezy Point, they have water slides and then the beach area. What activities are they going to be able to do there? Are they going to be able to do all of the activities, or is it going to be limited?
No, they should be able to do all. And my understanding is that they have lifeguards on for all those activities, from water slides to, I'm not familiar with the grounds, but if it's a pool or if it's a pond or a lake.
It's
But
on like a small lake. I
yeah,
believe.
there's lifeguards in place for all of that. So my understanding is they should be able to take place with all events.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I was just
Fine.
wondering. 'Cause it's
Mrs.
our-
Blythe,
the first time.
in order for any of the students to participate in any of the water activities, parents need to sign off and agree that students know how to swim. So parent permission slips have been specifically designed for any trips with water.
Great, thank you. And I just have one more question. Did you say that June 21st was the awards ceremony? Is that what?
No, for National Junior
I'm
Honor
sorry, for
Society.
the is it 8th grade?
Oh, 8th grade. 8th grade, their award ceremony will take place on the last day of school, June 22nd.
All right, thank you.
Do you know the time? We could get the
I
time,
do.
right?
I believe it's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning,
Okay.
and it should go right up until dismissal.
And the National Junior Honor Society will be held in the gymatorium? Or is that to be determined?
Yeah, probably to be determined. I think that's the one fact I didn't get, but I could see it being held in our school,
Okay.
Webster Middle School.
And it is exciting. I know it's the first time for the middle school to hold that event. As a parent, I had the privilege of attending several National Junior Honor Society induction ceremonies when the 7th and 8th grade were at Bartlett. And I'm thrilled with, not to rehash ancient history, but the fact that we've been able to get the athletics and the extracurricular activities reinstated at the middle school. And it's an exciting time, so.
It is. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Kay? Hearing none, thank you very much. Please feel free to join us anytime.
Thanks all. Okay, thanks for having me.
Next item on the agenda is the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening. My report will be brief tonight. There are a couple of things I want to update you on. On May 14th, we had town meeting. Some of you are present there at the meeting. It was one of the best town meetings I think I've ever attended here in Webster. It went very smoothly, and it was pretty quick. We breezed right through the articles. Our budget was approved with no questions, so we are off to a good start for FY19. And there was also an article that was on the agenda for $35,000 to complete some paving in the back here, putting in some lines for safety, and we'll have some cleaning up around our entryway and hopefully make it safe and look professional out back. I'm pleased to report tonight that during our budget, we were able at the last minute to add an additional $40,000 to enclose our entrance in the high school area. So we will be working towards that. Another safety initiative that's on the top of our list. So we were really thrilled to get that approved. And we also had built into that $10,000 for communication systems. So I'm hoping that'll be enough to increase some, communication we think we need between all schools, from here to Park Ave, middle school, to be able to communicate in any event. So we are thankful for the budget. We are thankful for the way things went, and we look forward to get started for next year. We're ready to go. The second thing on my agenda is the MASBO conference. I was able to attend the MASBO conference last week from May 15th to the 18th down at the Cape. I was excited to be there. It was my first time going and networking with a couple hundred business managers from Massachusetts. It was really a packed agenda item, and I was really happy. I got a lot of things out of it. We started off, kicking off, we were able to meet Mr. Jeff Riley, new Commissioner of Education. He spoke a little bit about education and what he feels is happening in the Commonwealth right now. I was pleased to hear he started speaking about funding a little bit, and he is expecting, or he's hoping, that we will see some increase in funding as the years progress. He thinks things are improving in the community, in the Commonwealth, and there is a real focus on Chapter 70 and additional funding. So he's thinking that we might be seeing some of that come down the road. So that was good. And then we had Mr. Jay Sullivan, who is the Associate Commissioner of School and District Finance, who talked a little bit about the budget for next year. And one of the big things I picked up from that was that the current circuit breaker is holding at 72%, and he's expecting it to stay there. It's not going to be the 75% that we hope, but it is up from the 65% that it started. So that's been pretty true to the number over the past few years. So that's a good thing for us. We'll bring in some additional funding to that. Some important takeaways that I got from the conference is they had a session on federal grants, and it was held by the Department of Ed, and it's one of those sessions where they give you a bite of something, a little taste of something, but then they don't answer any of your questions, and they say, well, we don't know yet. We're just throwing it out there. We're still working on it. But it looks that they are moving all federal grants. Right now, a federal grant, when you apply, it goes from September 1st to August 30th, unless it's a multi-year grant. Multi-year grants you're allowed to carry over into additional years. It looks like they're going to be starting to move all federal grants to run through the state timeline, so it'll go July 1st through June 30th. They want to run on that fiscal cycle, which affects the way we've reported in the past. So there'll be some changes there for reporting purposes. But I don't expect any problems. We're pretty accustomed to the reporting, so I don't expect any issues with that. There are also the state is continuing to change these chart of accounts to align it with our EPIMS collections. That is our employee personnel information management system that we report on twice a year, where it collects all the data from student schedules to staff schedules to grades, what people are teaching, so they can connect back to the student. They have this system which doesn't fully align with our financial system, so they can be reporting staff, but the dollars are not lining up. So they've been working to tie those two things together. So they're changing the chart of accounts to line up a little bit, adding some things in places and removing some things. So that led to some interesting discussion and a little bit of panic by some of the business managers. Pretty entertaining when you're trying to see how they don't really understand the EPIMS portion of it. But since it's something that I've done in the past, that's kind of one of the jobs that I've worked up through. I kind of understand how the tie works together. So that shouldn't be a major either. And then the session ended with a keynote speaker, Dr. John Draper. He spoke about education in America in general, in the United States, and the outlook on public education, and how there is a negative outlook right now in America on public education in general. People are moving away from public education, going into maybe a charter or something like that, thinking that it's they're going to get a better education. But, you know, he was saying some of the headlines that you read out there are not necessarily true. When you drill down into the numbers and into the stats, public education is doing very well and is improving. And he believes very much in a culture change and positive outlooks and positive reinforcements in your communities. You know, he said a lot of times you can be out in a community and you might hear negative. Can you believe so-and-so did that? Or can you believe so-and-so? He said he believes that it's more of the positive. You should be marketing and sending positive messages. And there are so many good things going on in the school system, which we see here every day. And those really need to be featured. So he was pretty engaging. We sat there for about a good half an hour, and I enjoyed his presentation. I thought he was wonderful. You know, maybe we'll get lucky enough someday to bring him here. He was offering all us MASBO members a nice discount if we wanted to take him up on that. And that concludes my report. It was a great week, and I was very thankful to be there. I really picked up a lot, and I look forward to next year.
Good. Any questions or comments from Mrs. Perangeli? Hearing none. And again, thank you for all your efforts for the work that went into especially the article on town meeting. I know you spent a lot of time researching and talking to the DPW folks, and thank you for your efforts on that. Moving on with the agenda, student update, Laiz Napoli. Good evening, Laiz.
Good evening,
How are you?
everyone. I am good. You asked me about prom at the beginning of the meeting, so I guess I'll start off with that. Prom took place on May 12th. It was a Saturday night, and it was a really awesome event. I had a really good time. Everything looked great. The food was awesome. In case you were wondering, there were steamed vegetables, steak with onion balls, and there was chicken parm, and there was salad, and then they had strawberry shortcake for dessert. And I don't have that written down. I just remember because it was that good. I have a couple of senior-specific announcements as well. The senior class trip will be at High Meadows this year, and it's going to be taking place on Friday, June 1st. There are permission slips, and there still are, I believe, outside Miss Nassis's room, and those are due no later than May 25th. The senior banquet will take place on Tuesday, June 5th at Point Breeze, and there will be a senior cookout on Monday, June 4th. Both of these events have, I guess, sign-up sheets, and those are also outside Miss Nassis's room, and that's for the students to sign up and to the events that they know they'll be attending. I mean, some students, because of work, know they can't make it to one or the other, but this is important because we need a head count so that nobody is sad because they don't have enough food. Cap and gown payments are due by the 31st. And class dues must also be paid in order for people to be eligible to attend their senior activities. And there will be an important senior class meeting at 1:40 tomorrow afternoon in the auditorium. Student Council is selling Kiss a Senior Goodbye bagged Hershey Kiss Grams for $1, and those will be delivered on May 24th. The spring concert took place on Thursday, May 17th, and it was a really good concert. I told my dad I wouldn't stay for all of it because they always run late. And I'm like, I'll probably leave earlier. But then show choir came on and I couldn't because it was awesome. And I always like to watch the band perform and see how much they grow because you can hear their improvement from the winter concert to now. And I'm always there to support my brother too. They're events that I enjoy going to. And even after I graduate, I will still go to them. Mr. Peter Cushing visited the high school today. As Ms. Gogan mentioned, there were meet and greet sessions for both teachers and staff, and then they were open to the public, so students, parents, committee members, and the community. I have an announcement for Farm to School. Strawberry shortcakes. made with locally grown strawberries will be served at both lunches tomorrow, the 23rd. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And MCAS testing will take place tomorrow and Thursday for the sophomores. And I have an additional announcement depending on your answer to this question. Is this my last meeting?
It is, unfortunately.
Okay, well then I would like to say that it was a pleasure attending and that I really do like coming to these meetings. And everybody always makes jokes about how they're long and boring. And yes, I may have never really stayed for one the whole way, but I'm sure that's not the case. You're all very fun people, very friendly. I was really nervous to say yes to Mr. Knowlton about doing this, but then, you know, coming to the meetings and it's just nice, you know, I feel very responsible. And I like seeing my name on the back of the programs right there under student representative. And it makes me feel really good that I was able to fill a position like this and keep it. So thank you guys for that experience.
Well, fortunately for you and unfortunately for us, it is your last meeting. And every year we have wonderful student reps, but I must say that, you know, you have been an absolute joy to have with us. You're extremely articulate, smart, funny, and you truly represent what is best about Bartlett and our school district. So when you succeed in 5, 10, 20 years and you're famous and very successful, come back and tell everybody how wonderful your experience was at Bartlett High.
I will, I promise.
And we'll definitely see you at the awards night and graduation and maybe some of the other
Yes.
events. But
Yes, you
on
definitely
behalf of the entire committee, it's been an absolute delight.
Lais, these are for you.
Of course, oh my God.
Oh, that's right. We need to do better than our brain picture. Done a really. I'm gonna miss you. You have to come back. We don't mind.
Good thing she's in charge of technology.
All right.
And then our last final gift this evening, if you want to turn that name tag around and slide it out, you can take, she can't take the holder, right?
I was gonna ask if I.
No, that's yours.
Oh my God.
You can have the holder. You can have the holder.
Oh.
Need the holder.
See, good thing the boss likes you. She can
my gosh,
overrule
You need
people.
the holder.
I guess being nice to her all this time paid off.
So the other staff members should pick up on that, right?
Yes.
Any other comments or? Yes, Mrs. Siddiqui.
Lace, I just want to say you have been amazing. It's been great to watch you present, and it's always been interesting and funny and great to hear about what's going on. And one of the things that stood out for me is just your sense of community when it comes to Bartlett High School. You cheer on your classmates, you show up for everything, and you always have a shout out for somebody that's done something special from one meeting to the next. So thank you for spreading that.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I know that I've only met you for 2 meetings, but it has been a pleasure. Good luck. I know that you'll do great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Shelby.
Blaze, it has been very entertaining. We've all enjoyed watching you play soccer and come to these meetings, and we are going to hold you to coming back and sitting through an entire meeting.
And running for school committee.
I'll do
And
it.
someday running for school committee.
Great.
yes. But thank you very
Thank you.
much for
Thank
your
you,
time.
guys.
Mrs. Gilbert.
Lays, you're going to do great in the world, and we can't wait to hear about all the things that you're doing. You've done a fabulous job being the student rep. You've always come to this meeting very well poised, very well organized, and everything that you tell us is right on spot. So I'm sure your peers and your parents are equally as proud of all of us here. Thank you for bringing you to this meeting.
And one last time, does that conclude your report?
Yes, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Now, you can stay because I know you don't have any homework to do. It's the last week of school.
I can't. Anatomy.
Oh, you do have homework to do? Okay, I trust you and believe you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good
Lace.
night.
Next item under old business is third and final reading policy JFBB school choice. Just as a reminder for the 20th time, school committee policy, anytime there's a change to a policy or a new policy, we go through 3 readings with the assumption that the updated or new policy would be approved at our 3rd meeting. Again, this policy has been revised due to the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, and I will entertain a motion to approve the policy as presented.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is the FY19 budget update. Mrs. Pransley did allude to it earlier. I did ask specifically that this item be on the agenda. We did meet prior to town meeting. It was a legal meeting. It was posted. It was open to the public. However, not all the members were able to attend, nor, was it televised. So I did want to have the opportunity for any final discussion related to the budget, not only from the members, but the administration. And maybe my opinion is all those budgets that we've approved are still proposed because town meeting hasn't actually approved them. So I would actually like a final approval. And then my last question is, was there a difference between what we voted on that evening and what the town administrator presented at town meeting?
Slightly.
Slightly. Well, let me start off. Are there any questions or comments from either the members or the administrators? Well, and again, I know that a lot of work went into putting together the budget. It starts in October. There are endless meetings where there's great discussion and probably some anger at times amongst the staff. We've discussed it at numerous committee meetings. We had a budget workshop. We had the public hearing per town charter. And fortunately, town meeting did approve what is the final FY19 budget.
Drum roll, please. $20,969,677. That's $22 less than what we had presented.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the FY19 budget of $20,969,677.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Abstain. The next item on the agenda is open meeting law violation determination. For those that might be watching who may not be aware, there was an open meeting law violation submitted by Linda Millett on March 7th to the Attorney General's office. Her allegation at the time was that the committee had violated the open meeting law at our February 13th budget workshop. This committee discussed, as per state law, the complaint in quite a bit of detail. We voted as a committee that we did not believe that there was a violation of the open meeting law. The Attorney General's office did conduct further investigation. Their investigation included a review of our meeting notice, the meeting minutes from that date. An attorney from the AG's office did speak with Ms. Millett as well as myself on April 4th and April 19th, respectively. We did receive a letter from the Attorney General's office dated May 8th, where the 3 allegations of potentially violating the open meeting law per the Attorney General's investigation, they did not believe that any violation of the open meeting law did occur. Obviously, this letter is a public document. If anyone has any further questions or would like a copy of the letter, they can certainly reach out to the superintendent's office. Any other questions or comments from the committee related to this matter? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda under new business is the approval of out-of-state field trip BHS senior class to High Meadows, Granby, Connecticut. As Laiz just mentioned, it is tradition that the senior class attend High Meadows. Since it is an out-of-state field trip, it is required that school committee approve. They are requesting the field trip on June 1st. Approximately 50 to 75 students would be attending, and the principal and the superintendent have signed the field trip request form with the new parent permission slip. Any other information that I missed, Mrs. Gogan?
No.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the BHS senior class field trip to High Meadows in Granby, Connecticut.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Hopefully it won't rain this year like it did last year. Next item is the acceptance of a $3,200 Janet Masler Humanities Trust grant. Mrs. Gogan.
We are very grateful for another grant from the Janet Masler Humanities Foundation Trust. This grant is going to the art department, and I spoke with Mr. Harrington today. These funds will be used to help support field trips and actually buy clay for the empty bowls for next year. And on behalf of the students and the art department, I want to publicly thank them for their continued support.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the donation of $3,200 from the Janet Masler Humanities Trust.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Once again, on behalf of the committee, I want to thank the Janet Masler Humanities Trust. They have been incredibly generous to our school district. And once again, I want to thank our wonderful art teachers who, again, are looking at creative ways of funding these phenomenal activities and resources for our students. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is appoint school committee member as payroll designee per Massachusetts Municipal Modernization Law. I didn't think I was going to pronounce it. Section 57 to 58, the school committee is permitted to designate one or more of its members to review and approve bills or payment warrants with a report provided at next meeting. This is a process question, would Mr. Shenevert and I need to abstain and or recuse ourselves from this motion? Or from this item, okay, so I know we can't be the designee, but you think we could still actually vote on it, even though we have spouses who work in the district? Okay, would that be a consensus?
I agree.
With that being said, I will entertain a motion to appoint a school committee member as payroll designee. And again, for our newer members, with this new law, there are times, especially like in the summer, when we don't meet as a regular basis, or in an urgent matter, where the payroll designee can sign payroll on behalf of the committee. It is a legal process, and then that signature and that payroll warrant is presented at the next meeting. So again, I'll entertain a motion to appoint a school committee member as payroll designee. Rock, paper, scissors?
I'd like to nominate Sheila Blythe.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussions or any other appointments? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is appoint school committee member as warrant designee. Again, the same Massachusetts Municipal Modernization Law. School committee is permitted to designate one or more of its members to review and approve bills or payment warrants with a report provided at the next meeting. I believe I was the designee for this past year. I would certainly be more than willing to volunteer unless there are others who are really looking forward to having that a fancy title, but I will leave it up to the pleasure of the committee.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Shenevert.
I would be more than happy to appoint yourself as the warrant designee.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is appoint school committee member as backup warrant designee. Again, the law does allow not only a designee, but a backup designee. So what is the desire of the committee?
Chair,
Mr. Shenevert.
I'd be happy to volunteer.
I would second that.
Would you mind just making that a motion, Mrs. Siddiqui? I'm not sure if Mr. Shenover can.
I would like to make a motion to accept Mr. Shenever's volunteer to be the backup warrant designee.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is approval of reading specialist job description. Mrs. Gilgan.
Thank you. We are looking at our job descriptions, and you're going to be seeing a series of them coming through at future meetings. The reading specialist position is new for us. Well, not a new position, but for next year, we are reallocating our literacy coach back to a reading specialist position so that there's more direct service to students. There will be some still coaching in this position, and given that there's a change, we have updated the job description, and I have asked Mrs. Daniels to speak a little bit about our reformatting of this.
So in the past, we've had literacy coaches, probably since 2003. And probably about 2009, 2010, we did have a junior high, when 7th and 8th grade was here at Bartlett, we did have a reading specialist. And, you know, it's a title, but there are different stresses within the job. So just a coach really focuses more on coaching teachers to be better reading teachers within their classroom. They provide a lot of professional development, but the majority of their job is working with teachers, and they can also work with students. A reading specialist is just the opposite of that. Most of their focus is on direct student services with the kids identified who may need interventions more at an intensive level. And they still have a leadership role within the building. They still can provide professional development, just not as as big of a role as a literacy coach. So, I think this is pretty explains the job. If you have any questions, I can.
Any questions or comments
any
from the
questions?
committee? Do we currently have reading specialists? I know that you said it's a new job description, but do we have this role currently?
We had it, and it was vacated probably, I want to say about 4 years ago, 4 years ago, and we never filled the position. But we felt that we needed to update the job description because it was so specific to what we call the literacy lab that was at Bartlett, again, for 7th and 8th grade. So, you know, it just needed a good updating.
Is this role expected to be added in future years?
These roles that we're talking about are under the Title I grant, so the academic interventionists. So we're looking at remodeling how we're using the academic interventionists. And we are purposely putting a reading specialist at the elementary school and purposely putting a reading specialist at the middle school.
And we'll still have academic
Yes,
interventionists.
and the
So,
academic interventionists will be there.
you know, the reading specialist has that certification as being the specialist of literacy, so.
I think it's exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
It is.
obviously, you know, based on information that I've received over the years, and especially you just commented earlier today, when we're talking about curriculum and alignment and, you know, trying to move the district forward in certain areas, the core to everything is reading.
It is.
So it's exciting, not only to have a proper job description, but more importantly, that, you know, there will be additional resources available to the staff and the kids to focus on this area. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the reading specialist job description.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion in 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda, are we skipping over?
We are going to
All
table
right,
that.
so we're tabling item G, approval of exploratory foreign language teacher job description. And the next item, approval of special education team chairperson job description. I am actually going to recuse myself as my wife is currently a special education team chairperson and ask Mr. Shenever to please chair this
Thank you, Mr. Hurton.
agenda item.
Superintendent Gogan, any comments on this?
On this team chair?
Yes, on the team chair. Yep.
It has been updated. I would like Kathy Barris to just give us a quick, no? Do you have it? Yes, I don't have it in front of me, so,
Neither do we.
None of us have it in
oh,
front of us.
okay. Well, we're in the same boat.
Correct.
It was in the, it was
Okay.
in the email.
Yes. As Lori's getting the copies, I think it's important that you know that what we're trying to do with our job descriptions is make them very crystal clear so that people know what they're expected to do. And this will help us with not only evaluating staff, but helping us move the district forward. So it is our intention, maybe with some, when and if we get some downtime in the summer, that we take a real thorough look at all of our job descriptions and update them. I think it's a good, healthy practice to get into. And I do want to thank Mrs. Siddiqui for giving us a template. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to move on to
I was
school?
just said, you want to table that one and move on to the
Yes,
next
yes.
topic?
Sorry, I'm a little slow today. It's been a long day.
Yep, so we'll table that one, and then item I, approval of school psychologist job description. Mrs. Gogan and/or Mrs. Barris.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mrs. Barris.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. So this, the description you have in here was provided as a draft, and we vetted it. We obtained some input from our current school psychologist. When we did go back to, we were going to be hiring someone shortly, when we went back to see if we could find something to attach to our posting, we didn't find a school psychologist description, so that's what prompted this. So, and we haven't hired a school psychologist in a very long time, which is good, you know, longevity is good. So we did go through all of the duties and expectations that we have of what our school psychologists will do in the buildings, and tried to make sure that it was aligned, and like I said, vetted it with our current school psychologist for input. So I think it's fairly straightforward. You know, certainly encompasses the primary duties, which is to evaluate students referred for special education, but also stressing their participation in our student support teams, child study teams, providing, being a resource and providing support for families and for teachers in terms of strategies and different opportunities that are out there to help families and children. So I don't know if you have any specific questions.
Questions or comments from Mrs. Barris? So again, might be a silly comment or question, but what appears to be really nice about adding the additional psychologist at the middle school is now they're not just, you know, they were so inundated with testing, I'm guessing.
Right.
And all of those items that you just mentioned are so critical in the overall team to assist students who might be struggling, whether it's academically, socially, emotionally. So
Right.
I'm guessing for you and your team, you'll be gladly looking forward to the assistance in the building.
Right. We certainly are. I think it will add a lot of strength to our process and, you know, I think just enhance, you know, the work that we do with families and kids every day, so.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the school psychologist job description as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes, I will just jump back to item H, approval of special education team chairperson job description, recuse myself, and once again ask Mr. Shenever to please chair this item.
Thank you. And I'll go to Superintendent Gogan.
Okay, and this has been updated, this special education team chair position with an additional person. We took the opportunity to kind of look at our existing job description. And Mrs. Barris, do you want to add anything?
I think it's fairly straightforward if you hadn't had an opportunity, but basically the special ed team chairperson is the person who really from the very beginning to the end of the process for students who are referred for special education, oversees the process, oversees the compliance guidelines, ensures that those are adhered to. They do serve as the district designee for the allocation of resources. So where I'm not at every, team meeting, they are really kind of the ability to, if something comes up at the meeting in terms of services or needs, they're able to allocate those resources at the table. So again, I think it's a fairly straightforward. This was also vetted with the current team chairs for the district, and they were given the opportunity to just review it, make sure that we had covered everything, and provide any suggestions and recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? I do have one silly question.
Yes.
The physical requirements, did we pull that from a national occupational database, or do we know where
I think that
we
was
got those from? That's just the insurance guy and me wondering.
In my experience in writing job descriptions, it's always a good idea to take a poll of whoever else is in the position, what the general expectations are. It's a guideline so that if someone's ever injured and needs to return to work with light duty requirements or something like that, there's a guide to go by. You can send it to someone's physician, get their input. Yeah, they can do this. They can't sit for more than an hour at a time. Can you accommodate that? And that's something that can be evaluated, and if reasonable accommodation can be made.
That's what I figured. I figured I'd ask. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I agree with you. I'm glad to see that this is an addition,
Yeah, it's
for a lot
something
of
new.
our
I hadn't seen it before, and it's a good addition.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that's
But I don't
needed
know,
for
I
that
didn't
purpose.
compare it to the, dictionary of occupational titles.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Thank you. Any other further questions? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the school psychologist, the special ed TAM team chairperson job description.
So move. Second?
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Lori, will you poll the committee? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Abstain. Next item on the agenda is the discussion on Central Massachusetts Collaborative. Mrs. Gobin.
Yes, as you know, I'm your designee to sit on the board of the Central Mass Collaborative, and I've been doing so since July of 2017. I would like to bring to the school committee's attention that at this point, we have 3 students involved in the Central Mass Collaborative. And it is a collaborative where there are only 2 board members, myself and the Worcester superintendent. And I have been doing a lot of talking and listening, talking with Kathy and listening at the board meetings. And it appears that we really aren't using the facility the way that we are using our other collaborative. And I wanted to bring that to the school committee's attention. I take my responsibility on sitting on any board very seriously, and there's a tremendous responsibility of sitting on a board when our children aren't using a facility. At this point, this late date, the executive director is still working on the budget, and they are looking at some financial deficits for next year, and that concerns me because the philosophy of what's going on there right now is not to look deeply at the programming, but to look more at projected income that isn't coming in. So I'm a little concerned, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. Kathy did join me at the last meeting. I spent an entire day as a board member meeting all of the directors of all of the different programs to listen to their budget needs and wish lists. When they're looking at a deficit, I kept coming back to saying, where's the money coming from? And I'm concerned because it is close to the end of the year. And I did include in your packet the original agreement. I do not have the full history to share with you on how Webster became the only sole partner with Worcester. But in the paperwork, in order to withdraw from a collaborative, you definitely need to give them a year advance. So I didn't want any of this to come to a surprise, and have asked Kathy to be here if you have any questions, but my concerns are pretty simple. We are members, but we're not using it. We are members, and we have a responsibility. And the amount of time that I have to take away from this district to sit on another board, and as a board member, I would have hoped that the budget was presented to me by now, and it hasn't. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention. Is that pretty much it?
I think that that's a good summary.
Okay.
We have been members of this collaborative for a very long time. When I first came to Webster, and I had used the collaborative when I was in other districts, I had sent students there, to certain programs as a non-member. But here, as a member, I think that there have been a lot of changes over the last 6 years. I think some growth in some areas, but in terms of addressing the needs of students, specifically students that we would send from Webster, I don't see that evolving as a member. As you can imagine, if we're the only other member, the primary pool of students comes from the Worcester Public Schools. And so a lot of the programs are kind of geared towards, the specific needs for the Worcester Public Schools, which is fine. But it's not like, in other collaboratives where you have a broad membership and the membership is addressing, multiple needs. So, I think that that's the kind of growth I was hoping to see as a member. As Ms. Gogan presented, our numbers are very small. They have decreased over time. They certainly have some very, solid programs. I think the programs that we would tend to send students to, are sometimes at their census, and, sometimes then it's difficult to get a student in for the specific service that you are looking for. But I think, most of the time when we go to look for a specific type of placement for a student or a specific service for a student, that's not typically where we go because they don't offer those various options, such as, kind of the related service piece and so forth. So right now, we will continue to have those students stay for as long, and we can participate as a non-member if we so choose. I think one of the points that the superintendent made was in terms of the programmatic, evaluation of programs and how those programs are operating and moving students forward. That's something that we really haven't seen. And I think one of the things that I would really like to see is for them to really evaluate things from a programmatic and curriculum perspective. So, over the past 6 years, that with that minimal growth, with our decrease of using them, I would concur that it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest, that amount of time. I do know that that collaborative is looking for, or has reportedly looked for, other members. So, but I'm not sure where they stand with that process.
And they have been informed that I would be talking to you and that questions about the collaborative have come up. And according to the executive director, they do have other communities that are closer to them that would join into their collaborative.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Siddiqui.
sounds like we're the only other member of this collaborative.
Yes.
Sounds like a bit more of a partnership. Right? We're going to be dissolving a partnership if we leave, or what does that mean? Would the collaborative continue to exist as one?
No, they would have to get more members. And I think that they're already in that motion of looking to obtain new members. But if we were to withdraw, we have to give them a year's notice. And that year's notice, I anticipate, is so that they could fulfill their other memberships. I think it's the only collaborative in Massachusetts with 2 members. I think it's a very unique situation. On the other board that I serve on, there are at least 12 or 13 members. So the responsibility is spread amongst districts.
Yeah. And I think, I'm not sure exactly, when the partnership, but when the district joined them. I don't know what, that was, what happened during that process. But I do know that during, I want to say probably a number of years ago, when the collaborative regulations changed, it does require you to have more than 1 member for it to be a collaborative. And they have been looking to boost that membership. So I think that's the direction they're going in, and that's great. And perhaps maybe with, a broader base of districts participating and broadening, some of those programmatic and clinical and, related service supports, things that other collaboratives do, it might be something we might want to revisit in the future. But it is, I think, a very large commitment.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Schoenberg.
It sounds like we haven't used their services in a while, and going to assume we've been able to fulfill our needs through other services. So basically, it sounds like I would agree. There's no sense in us investing that much time in something we haven't used and most likely aren't going to use. And personally, I'd rather see your time spent, like you mentioned, elsewhere, particularly here. So I'd have to agree. Makes sense to withdraw.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one more question. If we were to decide moving forward that this was something that we saw value in becoming a member of again, maybe they bolstered their membership, how easy or difficult would it be for us to then join at that point?
Our students could still go there as non-members. So even if we were to withdraw and tell them in a year, and we saw that there was a program that we needed there, we could still send students there. And with regards to joining their membership, I don't know what the steps would be, but certainly if you decide to withdraw, we will certainly be talking to the attorney and making sure that this is done correctly and working with them collegially to do that. And during that process, we could find out if we wanted to rejoin, what the steps would be. I don't have those answers.
Just for the years that I've been on the committee, I never understood why we were members. Just from a pure practical standpoint, it always appeared that the actual number of our students that were utilizing their programs was very low, and it's even decreased. Obviously, your time is extremely valuable. It is concerning just from a pure process and maybe lack of a better term, reputation standpoint, that they are struggling not only financially, but it appears, from an operational standpoint, perhaps not doing the best as far as assessing their programs, and the fact that, almost every other district has either had their budget approved or finalized. So based on all those factors, obviously you are the program experts. I don't see any value in staying in the collaborative. So I would, I guess, recommend to my colleagues that we vote to remove ourselves as a member district. And, there are a lot of districts that are much closer geographically. And if no one else has joined, that just says to me from a practical standpoint, why hasn't anyone else joined? If they're offering these tremendous programs and they're adding programs and services that you either can't get elsewhere or they're that much better than what some of the other collaboratives are offering, you would think that others would be joining. So again, my opinion would be that we vote to remove ourselves from the collaborative. What is the desire of the committee? Or we could table it for future discussion. We do need to make a decision, obviously, prior to July 1st, but also have the ability, as Mrs. Gogan pointed out, to review with our council and make sure, out of fairness, that her colleagues at the collaborative are notified appropriately.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
This
Schoenberg.
is something we need to make a motion and approve on, or is that something that superintendent,
No,
we
it's,
do need to make a
yes,
motion?
it's actually, it's kind of like a union contract. It's the school committee that is formally the member, that made the initial vote to decide to become members of the collaborative.
Is it something we want to make a motion on now, or do we want to wait until we hear back from the attorney? That would be my only question.
Well, I would think the attorney would just advise us on process. The attorney would not, we as a member, the only stipulation is that we notify them within a year. It's up to us as a member to determine what we think is in the best interest of our students as well as our staff.
Thank you. That being said, I will make a motion to recommend withdrawing from the Central Mass Collaborative.
Recommend or to withdraw?
To withdraw, I'm sorry.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And again, this is not going, even if obviously this occurs and we have students there, they just remain in the programs that they're currently in
Yes.
as a non-member. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, discussion of school committee use of Chromebooks. I actually asked that this be put on the agenda. I just wanted to have a brief conversation. You know, this packet actually isn't that bad, but there are some evenings that, you know, we get packets that are about that thick. So I wanted to find out if the committee would like to consider utilizing Chromebooks for, you know, a majority of the paper that we receive. Honestly, when I get home, this is all public information. This just said goes in the trash. We receive it electronically. So my thought was we would get the agenda, Mrs. Gogan's notes, any minutes that we're approving, and any presentations that are being given that evening, which we typically get as a separate document. And then the rest of the documents obviously would be on a Chromebook that we could scroll through. And then if there's any member that wants to have either a part of or the entire packet printed, just notify Ms. Glennon ahead of time. So that was my thought, but certainly didn't want to make that command decision without discussing it with my wonderful fellow members.
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Siddiqui.
I would definitely like to reduce our use of paper.
Okay.
So if we can do that by using a Chromebook, I'm all for it.
And obviously, it's not an issue having 5 Chromebooks available for the meetings.
I'm gonna have to check.
Hey, you just got more money in your
I
budget.
saved a few reams of paper, so I think I can swing that.
Okay.
The
Any-
ROI is there, Mo.
I was smiling as you were saying that because we've talked about that before, so I'm
Yeah.
happy about this. Good.
Okay. And everybody agree with what I had proposed for actual paper, or is there anything else that? Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is the approval of Custodial Union Council 93 contract. Mrs. Gogan.
Yes, our negotiations with the custodians went very well, and we have the agreement in front of you that we would like you to consider to ratify tonight.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee regarding the proposed new contractual agreement for the custodial union?
I want to thank Mrs. Naparata for being the school committee rep on that negotiations committee.
And then any financial aspects of this agreement, for the most part, have already been assumed in the FY19 budget process.
Correct. Good shape.
With that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve the contractual agreement between the Custodial Union Council 93 and the Webster School Committee for the period of July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is review, transfer, signing of bills, payroll, and vouchers. We do have a transfer request. I will entertain a motion to transfer $22,305.92 from the Bartlett High Student Activity Savings Account to the Bartlett High Student Activity Checking Account.
Moved.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Abstain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, a couple of years ago, and
What's it called? I hope you're getting a lot of royalties. Awesome.
Community theater. They
Okay.
travel all over the state of New Hampshire, playing it like. Oh, the book? The names.
I'm like, what? He's looking up the name of his book?
No, I was gonna look up the places up in New Hampshire. Yeah, it's gonna be New Hampshire, it's gonna be at Plymouth State College. Traveling all, but it's the middle school library and the archive.
But you didn't tell him the name of the book yet.
Asban, A-Z-B-A-N.
What is it?
Asban, it's A-Z-B-A-N. That's his name. Asban's Great Journey. About a raccoon.
Awesome.
Started writing a second book.
Do you illustrate it too, or someone else
No,
does that?
the first book, my oldest daughter's best friend was in college
Okay.
for illustration. So she did it for nothing and used it as part of her portfolio and got graded on it.
Wow.
Both of us. Second one, I'm gonna have to probably pay somebody.
Oh, boy.
But she won't do it for free anymore.
Probably not.
Maybe she'll do it for a reduced rate for old times.
Yeah, she's got a degree that says.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's gonna
She has a degree that says I can charge.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're gonna make a play.
Yep, yeah, yeah.
I hear about it.
A friend of mine actually lives in the same town up in Lincoln, New Hampshire. runs they're retired and his wife runs a cafe there. And he knew the lady who runs the Playhouse, and one thing led to another, and the next thing he was calling me and said, "Lady wants to talk to us." Okay. Great. So I'll go up there at some point to watch it. But
That's amazing. Congratulations.
thank you. Mr. Chair,
Mr. Shenowit,
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
That's awesome.
Yes. 7:50.
Oh, I could have come for that then. My work has been so demanding that